Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, firstly, to today's lunchtime seminar. Thank you for giving up your time to listen to me. My name is David Brewer. I'm Director of FTA Finance, and today's presentation is a beginner's guide to arranging finance, particularly when it comes to arranging pharmacy finance. This presentation is very much tailored to first-time buyers. And will provide a number of tips and suggestions in terms of where you start the journey process. So for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so, I will be running through various tips and suggestions. There will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. Now, I think on your respective laptops or computers or iPhones, there should be a button there that you can press if you've got a question in which you wish to ask. Please do type in the details and I will do my best to cover as many of them at the end of the presentation. So the seminar today will provide tips, as I said, primarily for first-time buyers, really on where to start the purchase process when it comes to buying a pharmacy. I'll do my best to cut through some of the financial jargon as well, which the banks are very well known for. I will highlight particular important points to look out for, particularly during the early days when you're looking at the sales particulars and accounts for any business that you're interested in buying, and then looking to provide ultimately guidance in terms of assessing the actual pharmacy in question to really work out whether it's actually worth your while going forward. And we can then talk about approaching the banks to get the best possible positive response from them. So if these are the points you were hoping would be covered, you're certainly in the right presentation. If they're not, bear with me. There may be one or two aspects of this talk which you hopefully will find in use. So a little bit about who I am and why I'm presenting to you today. As I said before, my name is David Brewer. The company is FTA Finance. We are very much specialists when it comes to arranging finance for pharmacists. We are completely independent. We're not linked to any sales agent. We're not linked to any bank. With us, you get true, unbiased advice. We are very much the one-stop shop for pharmacists as well. Now, most of what we do is pharmacy purchase finance, but we can also help when it comes to house mortgages, buy-to-let, talking about your current financial position, planning, growth strategy, all the way through to insurances and investment planning as well. So I won't cover any of those today apart from the top bit, which is pharmacy purchase finance. What I would say, we work primarily with first-time buyers or individuals who've maybe got one or two pharmacies looking to buy a second, third or fourth. So champions of the first-time buyer is that strapline, and we've been established for over 20 years. And in a typical year, we work with 100 pharmacists, setting them on the route to pharmacy ownership. So if you times 20 by 100, that's the best part of 2,000 people that we've helped over the past 20 years step onto the pharmacy ownership ladder. So I'm hoping some of you on this presentation today will be able to add to that figure. Little bit about the pharmacy market at the moment, because there is a real difference between what people believe is happening and the actual reality in terms of what is happening. So big difference between market perception and market reality. I've highlighted three of the main areas here. The question I'm quite often asked is, who is buying? This is quite often by my first-time buyer customers that I'm working with, who are convinced that it's the corporates. You know, the reason the goodwill values are so high, it's the corporates with their very deep pockets. They're snapping up everything that comes onto the market. The reality actually is very different indeed. Quite a lot of the corporates, particularly the much larger corporates, are struggling at the moment. We've seen quite a few actually close their doors. We've seen a lot of individual branches from the corporates being sold on the open market as well. Now, I've seen the accounts of quite a few of these, and they're not a pretty sight. And the reason being is the corporates have huge overheads over and above the actual pharmacy itself. Head office costs, personnel costs. Under the ownership of a first-time buyer, however, that any loss-making position can be turned very, very quickly into a positive position. And what we're seeing now are first-time buyers effectively driving the market. It's first-time buyers who are driving the values, not the corporates. NHS enhanced services, again, it's a case of both here. Now, I hear a lot of customers who are very, very adamant that the NHS scrip income is the be-all and end-all. That's what they're looking at. That's what they'll build their whole business plan around, because that's what they believe the banks would like to see. Now, don't get me wrong, the scrips are vitally important because they are ultimately the backbone of the business. They bring people through the front door. However, you're not going to make sizable profits on that side. Now, you've got to remember you are running a business. You are looking to derive a profit. You are not a charity. So on the NHS script side, you're somewhat limited in terms of what you can do. Enhanced services, however, is really where it is at. That is where you would take your business to the next level. And by enhanced services, I'm talking travel clinics, vaccination clinics, blood pressure, testing, smoking cessation, contraception, pharmacy first. The list goes on and on, and you probably know more than I do. But that's really where the big focus is, rather than on just the basic NHS scripts. To touch briefly on bank lending appetite as well, I still have a number of customers who will talk to me about bank lending appetite, and they believe that the attitude will be somewhat lukewarm. Well, I'm pleased to say the reality is different. Pharmacy is viewed by the bank as a green-like sector. I'll put the box there in green. Banks view the traffic light system when it comes to the sectors they lend to. Red is don't go anywhere near it. Amber is very cautious approach. Green is positive appetite to lend. You'll be pleased to know pharmacy and pharmacists fall within the green heading. However, it does come with quite strict lending criteria, which varies massively from bank to bank. And this is one of the importance of ensuring you work with an independent advisor who's got an overview of the whole market, who can steer you in the right direction and shape your proposal accordingly to fit the lender in question. So, where do you start? Question I'm quite often asked by my customers. So where do I start the process? It really is time to take control of your own future. You wake up in the morning, think, right, I want to buy a pharmacy. What do I do? Where do I start? Well, actually, before you speak to me, I would suggest strongly that you speak with your family before anybody else, family or close friends, effectively people who know you better than most. It is true to say that owning and running a business, to be honest, is difficult. You will have challenging days. You will have quite awkward days. It's a very lonely business. It will test your negotiating skills and test your patience beyond all recognition. Not everybody is cut out for business and pharmacy ownership. So speak with your family first. They will know you better than most. Another reason to speak with family, bank of mum and dad. A bank of mum and dad or family monies in general quite often come into play. Because when you're buying a pharmacy, particularly towards the goodwill, you will need to put a deposit down. In most cases, that is 20% of the purchase price. So family quite often will rally round to help their siblings, their cousins, whoever it may be. So do speak with your family, not only about buying the business, they may be able to help you out with any deposit which is needed as well. I would then suggest to my customers to compile a wish list. What would they deem as their perfect pharmacy? Normally suggest come up with 5 points. Now, top of the list is normally location, and in most cases it will be normally somewhere fairly close to where you live at the moment. But other points on this wish list, and again, it can be 3 on the wish list, it could be 20 points on the wish list. Starting point would be of location, but maybe also then, is your ideal pharmacy close to a GP surgery? Has it got car parking? Does it come with a property? So is there freehold involved? Is it offering enhanced services at the moment? How many staff are you looking for under your ownership? So again, you've got an idea as to what will be on your list, but bear in mind this list is personal to you. and it's a list that you should come up with. Location is probably the one area, however, that you will need to be more flexible on. If you're expecting to buy a pharmacy within 2 or 3 miles of where you live, that is quite a restrictive area, and you will not get that many opportunities coming your way. So I will always suggest cast your net as far and wide as you possibly can. The next point on the list is to pre-assess your ability to borrow, and I'll come on to that in some of the next slides. Just by asking you a few questions, getting a little bit of information from you, I will be able to give you an idea as to how much the banks would lend and how big a pharmacy you could possibly buy, basically how much you could potentially bid up to. Register with all of the specialist pharmacy sales agents. There's 5 or 6 UK-wide firms out there. I would suggest register with them all, let them know who you are, let them know you're a serious buyer, let them know you've been pre-assessed as well, let them know the area in which you're looking to purchase. And the last point I put there is spread the word. Now, again, you may need to be a little careful here, depends on your relationship with your current principal, the owner of the pharmacy at the moment. It may well be that they are looking to sell or considering selling at the time you're looking to buy. Most sellers would rather sell to somebody that they know already, somebody that they trust, and who better than somebody who actually works there already. So, within reason, spread the word about your potential purchase. The next question I'm asked by my customers is quite often, how much can I borrow? How big a pharmacy can I buy? So this is coming on to the financial pre-assessment that we discussed a little bit earlier. By getting a little bit of information from you, I can answer that question quite well. Now, the first bit of information I'll look to obtain is your CV. Now, most of you, I'm sure, will have a CV, and clinically, it's probably great. However, I would need you to build in aspects of managerial experience, because bear in mind, we're going to be using this CV to accompany any business application that we put forward and submit to the banks. So the banks would rather lend to people who've got elements of business experience. Now, you may think, I haven't got any business experience. The reality is you probably have. You may have covered for the current owner whilst they were on holiday or off sick. You may be involved with stock ordering, for example. You might have helped with a recent staff appraisal or even interviews for staff. You may have family members who are business owners, not necessarily pharmacist owners or pharmacy owners. They may have other businesses, but as long as they're self-employed, and if they're family, include that in your CV as well. Even if you haven't got any of this, still put aspects in the CV anyway, because the banks are unlikely to check the CV. But you can see why it's needed. We're looking to build up a business profile in addition to a clinical and just day-to-day working profile. Your prior earnings are important as well. So as a first-time buyer, the banks will focus on your prior earnings. So if you are a locum and self-employed, please ensure your accounts are up to date. So ideally, accounts are prepared. If not, copies of your tax returns should suffice. If you are salaried, I'll be looking for your P60 and your most recent salary slips, or it could be that you're a combination of both. If you operate as a limited company, that's not a problem at all. This is very different to a house mortgage application. It's more a case of just assessing your overall position. First bit of bank jargon there is ALI, asset, liability, income and expenditure. Effectively, it's a snapshot of your personal financial position. Now, what I would say here is, please be as honest and as open as possible when you're filling in this form for me. The number of forms I get back from the customers who say their assets are zero, their savings are zero, they've got nothing there whatsoever. They ask me, how much can I borrow? The answer is really easy, nothing. Because the banks would expect you to have a cushion of funds behind you, whether they're your own funds or whether they're family funds, please put them on the form. As I said before, you will be expected to put a contribution and commitment towards the purchase. So towards the goodwill, you're going to need to budget 20%. If there is property involved, so if there is freehold involved, you're likely to get 100% funding on that element, as long as it's affordable. Now, by answering these questions, we can then hopefully provide a pre-assessment, a financial certificate to say that you've been pre-assessed, and in theory you're in a strong position to move forward with any purchase. Now, in this case, this was one we did for Raj, and based on our discussions with Raj and the information we obtained from Raj, we believe with a very high degree of certainty that he will be able to purchase a pharmacy of up to 750,000 in size. Why we can say with confidence is that 94% of the funding proposals that we submit to the banks are approved. The ones that aren't, the 5 or 6%, it's normally because the customer hasn't quite told us certain bits of information about their personal position. So it's another reason to be as honest and as truthful as possible. So the financial pre-assessment, in the case of Raj, in theory, he can buy up to 750,000. However, doesn't mean he will get that on every single pharmacy, because some are better than others, some are more profitable than others, and the next key step is working out the affordability. So by obtaining the accounts of the pharmacy in question, we will then look to rewrite those accounts to effectively put you in as the owner. We will personalize it to build in any changes that you're proposing. We will add back costs that are personal to the current owner. We will build in your loan costs to actually work out whether it's worth your while going forward, and also whether it is affordable and worth your while submitting any proposal to the bank. Now, when we get to this stage, as I said before, working with an independent advisor is vital. Obviously, I'd love you to work with me. If you don't work with me, just ensure that you work with an independent advisor, a broker who can approach the banks on your behalf. They will have done this many times before. They will know how to prepare the proposal. They will know how to prepare the business plan and forecasts, ultimately to get the bank on board. So I'm assuming you're now registered. You've had your financial assessment undertaken. So if you register with all of the agents, I would suggest in a typical week, you will receive 2 to 3 sales prospectuses of pharmacies that have come to the market or which are already on the market. If you've got a very restrictive area geographically in which you're looking, you're not going to get as many. The wider the area, the more opportunities you will get. So you'll receive the pharmacy sales prospectus, and that will contain effectively a snapshot summary of the business in question. It will hopefully talk about staffing arrangements, whether it's going to be an asset sale, share sale, whether it's freehold property, whether it's leasehold. It will touch upon how close it is to GP surgeries, the number of items that are being dispensed. The point I will focus in on always are the financials, the accounts of the business, and also any up-to-date MI, which is management information. So it may well be that their year end is 31st of March, which is quite a common one. Most owners would have their accounts for 31st of March 2025, but they may not have their March 26 accounts yet. So hopefully they can provide you with some form of management information to show you how the business has performed over the past 12 months. This can also sometimes be accompanied by VAT returns, which show the overall level of income received, and also potentially the FP34 statements, which give you an idea as to how much is being received from the NHS side of things. Now, what I would say here is if the profits of the pharmacy are low, it's not the be-all and end-all. It could well be because that is how it is run and operated at the moment. Now, for example, if it is a corporate that is disposing of one of their outlets, they will quite often have hefty locum costs in there, quite often heavy head office costs as well. Well, if you take over the business, chances are you're not going to need the locum because you can do that yourself. There will be other add backs as well. So depreciation and amortization is a very common entry that we see on profit and loss accounts. This is a legitimate entry to a legitimate expense to effectively reduce the profit, which minimizes the tax, which is why it's quite often included on the accounts. However, it's not money that's walking out the door of the practice, so we can legitimately add that back to get a true profit. Quite often, we see a spouse's wage being paid as well. So the current owner may employ their husband, for example, pay them £30,000 a year for doing, frankly, not a lot, but obviously, when you take over the business, you're not going to be paying the husband because you can do that yourself. So it's all about coming up with an adjusted profit for you. So what I'm looking for is that other bit of bank jargon there, EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, which is effectively a posh way of saying adjusted profit under your ownership. And by doing that, we can hopefully answer the "is it worth it" question. So is it worth my while buying this business? Also would focus on growth potential as well. So this is where hopefully the sales particulars will provide some idea of what's being covered at the moment. You may have your own plans and ideas that you would look to bring once you acquire the business. So again, we would also look to build those in to any forecast that we prepare. So let's assume you've got the sales prospectus through, you like the look of the pharmacy. Your next step is to arrange a viewing of the business itself. Now, I've got some top tips here. These are common sense, a lot of them, but what you do and say and how you conduct yourself during the viewing of the pharmacy can quite often make or break whether your offer is going to be successful or not. It is, I'm sorry to say, still a seller's market at the moment. There are more buyers than sellers, so there's likely to be quite a bit of competition for any pharmacy that you go to view. So putting yourself in a strong position as possible is vital. So top of the list, be on time. I know it's obvious. If your appointment is arranged for 9 o'clock on a Sunday, turn up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. Don't turn up at 8:30, because chances are they're showing somebody else around at that time. Also, don't turn up at 9:30 because you're late, and that will certainly antagonise and annoy the owner. So be on time. Maybe turn up early, but look around the area before you knock on the door. Where is the GP surgery? Do you like the look of the area? Is it somewhere you feel you could own and run a business? Prepare a verbal CV, and this quite often catches out some buyers. Believe it or not, particularly if you're buying from an independent, you may be under as much scrutiny as you're putting them under. And quite often, sellers like to sell to people that they like, people that they can relate to. So try to find something in common with the vendor and be ready to answer any questions that they have got about you and your position. Bizarrely, don't ask too many questions of the vendor during the viewing interview. You would already have hopefully seen the financials before the meeting, so any burning questions about the accounts and the financials you could already have raised with the sales agent. If there are absolute burning questions that you need to ask, do so, but keep them as low and as small as possible. The problem is if you ask too many questions, you will be treated and viewed as the awkward one, and you don't want to be viewed as the awkward one. A lot of these questions can be covered by the sales agent and also during the purchase process when the legal due diligence is undertaken. Do be positive and upbeat during this viewing as well. You may walk in and you take one look at the actual layout and think, this is shocking, I'm going to change absolutely everything. You may think that. Don't say that, because if your plan is to change everything once you take over and you say that to the seller, they may think, actually, this person doesn't like the way I'm owning and running things at the moment. So again, it could alienate yourself. So just be positive and upbeat about the business. Once you've got the business, you can do what you want with it. And do outline that you've got funding agreed in principle. That's the pre-assessment that we've spoken about. Advise that you can move quickly. Whether you can or not will be dictated by the lawyers, but ultimately you want to give the impression that you can move swiftly. But also during the process, the viewing process, weird one, try not to discuss price. That is the most emotive point of the lot, and that's normally a discussion that you have with a sales agent at the end of the process. The property, now this really does come down to personal choice. There is no right or wrong here. Do you buy the freehold or is it a leasehold option? In most cases, you're going to have little option. Most first-time buyers would rather buy the freehold if it was available. And the good news on this aspect is 100% funding is normally possible as long as it's affordable. However, quite often this decision is out of your hands, even if the current owner owns the property. In a lot of cases, they wish to keep hold of it and they will then grant you a new lease. Ideally a 15-year lease, because the length of the lease is vitally important. Any bank loan is linked to the length of the lease. So if the lease is 15 years, your bank loan will be 15 years. If the lease is only 7 years left to run, your bank loan will only be over 7 years. So squeezing the repayments into a very short timescale will ensure the repayments are huge and probably unaffordable. So what you're ideally looking for, if it is leasehold, is a 15-year lease. Banks are happy to lend against leasehold. Again, that's another myth that they want freehold all the time. They don't. They will happily lend against leasehold as long as the lease is of a reasonable length. And the only point I've got there at the bottom, third-party landlords, we do find them a right lot will pay in the backside. They are normally a different person to the person who's owning and running the pharmacy. Obviously, they've got no vested interest other than ensuring that their rent is paid, and they are the main cause of delay on any purchase. So if there is a third-party landlord, the first thing I would ask you to do, once things move forward, is get your solicitor engaged and starting to speak to the landlord to get that side moving as fast as possible. The banks, I touched upon them before. Thankfully, they view pharmacy very much as a green light sector. They do recognise and will lend against goodwill. Leasehold is not a problem. They will lend against a lease. Good news on the freehold, if it is available, 100% finance is possible. Their borrowing terms are competitive compared to other sectors. However, every bank is different. Every bank's appetite to lend is different. Their pricing stance is different. And this is where it is vital that you work with a broker to get it right first time. You've got a greater chance of your loan being approved and greater chance of securing better terms as well. Nothing to stop you going direct to the bank. With the DIY approach, you can do that. But if you do that, and the terms you receive are not favourable, or indeed they decline the loan, it is then very difficult to go back via a broker to get that bank to overturn its decision. It's first impressions. First impressions are vital and very, very important. Getting it right first time. As I said before, business ownership is tough. It can be lonely. It will test your skills and patience to the limit. Key is, as a business owner, surround yourself with experts. Build a specialist team around you, not just during the purchase process, but also after as well. I'll put a few of the obvious ones on here. Solicitor. When you're buying a pharmacy, you want to be using a solicitor that has undertaken numerous pharmacy transactions in the past. They know what to look out for. They know how to protect your position. If your solicitor is just a generalist property lawyer, you're probably not going to get the best advice. So if you want details and suggestions of what solicitors to use, I can help you. The sales agents can help you as well. Same with your accountant. Hopefully your accountant will be somebody who's got a number of other pharmacists on their books, both locums and also owners as well. So they don't only prepare your accounts, they provide you with advice and guidance, and can also benchmark you against your peers as well. Independent business advisor, a broker, somebody like me, say if not me, do work with somebody independent who you can bounce thoughts and ideas off. We are here to help you at the end of the day. We want the purchase process to go through smoothly, but even once you've bought the business, there will be other aspects that you may wish to chat through. Bear in mind, say in a typical year, I work with 100 pharmacists, so we've come across most scenarios before. Pharmacy sales agents, say I've mentioned them before, you will have registered with them. Do keep in regular contact with them. Let them know who you are. Let them know you're a serious buyer. Let them know the areas you're looking to purchase. And let them know you're very keen to move forward. Your bank, vitally important. Well, firstly, because they're the ones going to give you the money to buy the loan. But once you've got the business, you want to develop a good relationship with your bank manager, because you never know when you're going to need them going forward. Maybe for an overdraft facility or for other short-term arrangements. Having the bank on side is vital. And recruitment consultants, again, view them as part of your team as well. As a business owner, you're going to have the joys of staff management and staff ownership. And it's a very busy Monday morning, and your salaried pharmacist has phoned in sick. You need that recruitment consultant on speed dial to get a locum in double quick. Again, it's all about easing the burden and ultimately enjoying the ownership. Right, I'm coming to the end now. So, your path to pharmacy ownership. As I said before, start with a plan in terms of the type of pharmacy you're looking for. Get pre-assessed. Research the market. Obviously, do your best to research the individual pharmacy in question and compare and prepare the business plan and forecasts. But most importantly, be patient and be persistent. It may take a number of months, if not longer, for you to find the right pharmacy for you. But patience is a virtue. It will come along eventually. So keep waiting and keep in touch with that. So that is the end of my presentation. I think almost spot on 30 minutes there. So thank you very, very much for listening. My contact details are here on the slide if you want to contact me separately. I'm just going to see if any questions have come in, so bear with me. So I've got a couple of questions. One is, what is the minimum savings or deposit that we need to have to buy a £650,000 or £700,000 pharmacy? Well, the answer to this question is, as a minimum, 20% towards the purchase price. So let's take the top end of the range. So if it is 700,000, you're looking at 140,000 from either your own savings or from family resources. So as long as you're not borrowing it, as long as it's a gift. On top of that, you also need to budget for purchase costs as well. So purchase costs are likely to be mainly legal. You're looking potentially the best part of £15,000. So if you're looking to buy a pharmacy for 700,000, you're probably going to be looking to budget for 160,000 towards the purchase. Another question that I've got here is, do you have any suggestions whether I should opt for a fixed or a variable rate? I wish I had a crystal ball. I don't. It's really down to personal choice. Obviously, I can run and will run through the pros and cons review on each option. Obviously, the plus with the variable rate is there are no tie-ins, there are no penalties, you can repay early if you wish. So you've got complete flexibility. Downside, interest rates could go up, and as a consequence, the cost of your borrowing will go up as well. On the flip side, they could go down, and you will benefit from any reduction. Fixed rate, very similar to a mortgage. For the period of a fixture, your rate is locked in, your repayments are locked in, whether it be for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, so you know exactly how much you're going to be paying, regardless of what's going on in the wider world and the money markets. Downside, you lose flexibility. And because of that, if you want to repay or redeem early, there may be costs and penalties there. It also may restrict you on a second purchase as well, because you may have bought your first business looking to buy a second. You're more or less restricted to that bank that's lent on the first one, because in an ideal world, we'd look to gear up on the value of your existing business. If you're in a fixed rate, the only one you can do that through would be the current bank. So do think long and hard about whether you go fixed or variable. I can provide my thoughts to you on a one-to-one basis. When you get to that stage, the decision is ultimately yours. So I'm rattling on quite fast now because I'm conscious of the time. I could say that this would be 30 minutes and it's going to be about 35, 40 minutes. The other question, how long does the purchase process generally take? For example, I had my offer accepted last week. When can I realistically expect to take ownership of the pharmacy? Well, how long is a piece of string? We've had pharmacy purchases go through in less than 2 months, and we've had some that have taken 18 months. Ultimately, it boils down to the lawyers, how quick and efficient they are. And whilst you may have the most efficient lawyers acting for you, and you may be the most organised person ever, if you've got a complete numpty on the other side who are slow at producing due diligence, and their lawyer is not doing what they should be doing, it will slow the whole process down, as would be the case if there's a third-party landlord as well. So generally, we say to our customers anywhere between 3 and 6 months would be a reasonable and realistic period for the ownership of the pharmacy. I'm just seeing if another question has come in. Question here, can we get a recorded version of this, please? The answer is yes, you absolutely can. I believe afterwards we will be sending an email to everybody who attended anyway with our contact details on. That will have a link to our website. And on our website, there will be a recording of this. It may take 24, 48 hours to upload. I am not very techy myself, so it won't be me that's doing it. But by the end of the week, it will be uploaded on the website. We're also going to try to get the NPA, who have also kindly promoted this event, of which we are partners of as well. We'll also get them to upload it onto their site as well. That is the end of the presentation. I can't see any more questions coming in, so I would like to thank you all very much for giving up your lunchtime on this very, very warm day and for listening to me. And I look forward to hopefully speaking with you all at some stage in the near future. So thank you very, very much for listening. Take care, everybody.